Welcome to This Week Inside Sim Racing, February 20th edition. I'm Jessica Lopez.
And I'm Sean Cole.
And This Week Inside Sim Racing is sponsored by iRacing.com,
where we have our own deal, PR-ISR trucks, where you can get all the base content for 3 months as a trial for $20, and you get the trucks in Michigan so you can run in the race we're hosting.
All right, well, we're going to start things off today by talking about a patch that has been released for Gran Turismo 5. It's patch 2.04.
That's right, 79 megabytes, so this is a pretty significant patch. They made changes to the gameplay, they made changes to the force feedback, read a bunch of different things about force feedback changes. They actually made some sound changes too, so if you were in a hybrid car or if you were in a combustion car and switched to a hybrid car, it would still sound like a combustion car. So more importantly than the amount of changes is the fact that they're still working on the sim.
And that leads me to think that maybe you guys should have waited to review this title even longer, right?
Always waiting for the patch.
Yeah, I don't think our viewers would like that too much.
No.
But they can head on over to our forums, or actually they can head on over to Gran Turismo's page at our website, InsideSimRacing.tv, if they want the full list of changes that comes along with that patch, and if they'd like to update that patch for their game.
Absolutely.
All right, that leads us to our next segment, which is Top Sim Cars, and we're bringing it back.
Finally back. It's been a long time since we've had Top Sim Car.
So we're going to be archiving our old list and keeping the top 50, and we'll have those listed at our website.
And now we're going to start a new list, the 2012 list. That way we don't have to keep chopping cars off that old list, and we can remember it forever. And now we can honor new cars just the way we want to.
And starting with the new cars, we have 2 cars to add to the list, and one of them is the 458 by Ferrari Virtual Academy, and this is by Kunos Simulazioni.
And that's a car that Darin got to take a test drive as a passenger in and got a ride of a lifetime.
Hell yeah, dude, way to drive it.
And the other car we're going to cover is the Riley Daytona Prototype that's out of iRacing, and it's a car that we have a lot of laps in with that race coming up. So,
And one of the favorites here at Inside Sim Racing, right?
absolutely.
So here it is, our very first Top Sim car of 2012, sponsored by TamiyaUSA.com.
All right, well, it's great to be back here doing a Top Sim car again. It's been forever since we've done one.
Yeah, it's been way too long, to be honest with you.
A little refresher on how this works. Basically what we do is Sean and I take a car from one of the many sims on the market and put it on a rating scale similar to our Shabami, but meant for the Top Sim car list. And these ratings or scale consists of a bunch of different categories, total 100, and these categories are physics, sounds, models, cockpit, fun factor, immersive, force feedback realism, damage, skins, and default set for a total of 100 points. Max.
Max points. And not only are we going to score them, but we're going to tell you a little about each car, who made them, and what the car is all about. Starting with the first car of today's show, which I have right behind us here, and that's the Riley MK20 Prototype by Riley Technologies. They're in Mooresville, North Carolina, and they have been a long-time manufacturer of Daytona prototypes. The car is a steel tube frame that runs a Pontiac V8 producing over 500 horsepower with a 5-speed X-Track transmission. The bodywork of the Riley is composite material, and the overall weight of the car comes in at 2,275 pounds. It uses wishbone and pushrod suspension. The car is completely adjustable and has multiple gear ratios to choose from. The aero abilities of the car can also be tuned with an adjustable rear wing and different wicker bills to choose from. The car is fast, nimble, and extremely fun to drive. And that takes us to our scores for the Riley. Oh, and I didn't mention that the car is available in iRacing.
And I will completely agree with that, fun to drive. We just spent a ton of time driving it. So scores.
Scores. First up in physics, 19 out of 20. Sounds, 13 out of 15. Models, 9 1/4 out of 10. Cockpit, 9 out of 10. Fun factor, 10 out of 10. Immersive, 9 out of 10. Force feedback realism, 10 out of 10. Damage, 4 out of 5. Skins, 4.5 out of 5. And the default set, 5 out of 5, giving it a score of 92.75 out of 100 possible.
So that's quite a score for our first car of 2012. And you know what? My opinion, obviously, it's half my opinion because it's half my score, but you know what? It deserves it. We ran the crap out of that car in the last couple weeks, and it just reacts the way I think it should. I mean, I've never driven a Riley Daytona Prototype. I've watched that race every time it's been on for the last 10 years, and it just seems like that's how the car runs. I mean, I was able to catch slides when I expected to. The car lost it when I expected it to.
Yeah.
Tire wear, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the tire wear is that good.
Right.
Because I actually double stinted my tires in my second race, so.
A lot of guys were having tire wear issues in my race, though, so it might have been set up and how you drove it, too.
Yep. So I think that 19 out of 20 definitely speaks volumes. Speaking of volume, iRacing sounds have gotten much better recently, and definitely more punch. The gear noise. I was hearing road noise as the car, you know, because I have a butt kicker running. I was hearing road noise as the car got up to speed.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, it's just an awesome sim car. I highly recommend it, and man, it doesn't get much better than that when it comes to sim racing.
You're absolutely right. Another thing, we talk about the visuals a lot, and this car has some incredible reflections. It's got the chrome wheels that, I mean, you can see them glowing all the way on the other side of the track. It's got that gold foil heat shielding on the firewall that anybody who's watched the Daytona prototypes before knows exactly what I'm talking about. And that makes it a very complete top sim car.
And that takes us to our next top sim car of all time, and that is the 458 Italia by Kunos for Ferrari Virtual Academy. That was the title that it came out with. And this is actually an add-on to the original that came out I don't know, about a year ago. And it was originally just a time trial competition, few tracks with the F1 Ferraris. And now they've added the 458 Italia to that. Before we get to our scores, a little bit about the Italia. First off, this is one of the few top sim cars on the list that we've either driven or ridden in. And I got to go for a ride in one about a year ago, and I have to say it's probably one of the most impressive cars that I've ever driven in my whole life. Didn't get to drive it, unfortunately. I was a passenger. But the dude that drove it like a man. He drove it like he stole it. So I definitely got a good ride in it. And I have to say, Kunos has done a really good job at capturing the sounds. One of the biggest things I looked for was how quick that manumatic transmission shifted.
Right.
And man, that's the first thing I noticed when I got in that car. That dude was just shifting it, bam, 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 and there was no lag.
Right.
It was like instantaneous, like a video game.
Yeah.
And so Kunos has done a great job of capturing that. Another one of the things I noticed is the red stitched leather dash and how nice that looked. And overall, they've done a great job of that. Some specs on the car. The dry weight is 1,380 kilograms or 3,042 pounds. Engine is a 90-degree V8 with a total displacement of 4,499 cc's or 274.5 cubic inches, putting out 562 horsepower at 9,000 RPMs, and it generates 398 pounds of foot torque at 6,000 RPMs. Puts the power through a dual clutch 7-speed F1 gearbox, and the top speed is 325 kilometers per hour or 202 miles per hour. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.4 seconds.
Wow.
So now on to our scores. We're going to give you our scores and then discuss it briefly and wrap this up. So first up, physics. Out of 20, we gave it 17.5. Sounds, out of 15, 13.5. Model, out of 10, we gave it 8 3/4. Cockpit, out of 10, we gave it 9. Fun factor, out of 10, we gave it 7. Immersive, out of 10, we gave it 8. Force feedback realism, out of 10, we gave it 8 1/4. Damage, out of 5, 0. Skins, out of 5, 1. Default set, 5 out of 5 for a total score of 78 out of 100.
So not as impressive, but there are two scores right there that, I mean, multiplayer and skins. Right there, you're losing nearly 10 points.
Damage and skins.
Damage. What'd I say?
Multiplayer.
Oh, no multiplayer.
Multiplayer goes into fun factor, though.
Yes, absolutely.
So you were thinking fun factor, because we were talking about that.
Yeah.
7, it got on fun factor. And, hey, it's great to drive that car.
Right.
But I want to race against somebody, you know, and only 3 tracks, so the fun factor, I mean, I think we were being a little generous on the fun factor with a 7.
Yeah, perhaps. And I mean, but the thing about it is that ultimately underneath it, you've got great physics. I mean, we talked about the way the car drove. You talked about the way the car shifted. The sounds have that Ferrari raunchy noise that I love. I mean, if there's one reason why I think Ferraris are as successful as they are, it's the sound they make. I mean, it's unlike any other car.
Yep. Now, before we close, I want to say something. It's no secret that iRacing is a sponsor of ours. There, on his shirt. Everybody knows that iRacing sponsors the show here. And if you don't, now you do. But that had nothing to do with our score. That score is what it is. People are going to say, oh, you beat up Netcar or you beat up Ferrari Virtual Academy, you only gave it a 78. That car was capable of an 88 easily by having paintable skins and damage. Throw some multiplayer in, and we're right at 90. I mean, that's a great sim car. Don't get me wrong. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. I mean, it is like €10 to check it out. I think with the extra track that they added. But I just wanted to say, before we start getting the comments, oh, you're biased towards iRacing. You know what? iRacing is stepping it up. If you haven't tried it lately, and this is not a plug for iRacing, man, I had one of the best times of my life sim racing yesterday in that 2.4 Hours of Daytona.
Yeah.
I felt like we both said it. You said it, and I said to myself, I thought the same thing. I felt like I was driving a real car all day. So it's just, man, they've stepped it up. But not to sell this short either. This is a great car. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do with Assetto Corsa.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
And if this car will be in Assetto Corsa.
Yeah.
Because if it is, I want to try it there, and I want to race it against other people.
Well, and chances are it's going to improve those other scores as well by adding some fun factor and some multiplayer and some skins.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to wrap up Top Sim Cars of All Time. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you are glad to see it back, because we had fun doing it, and we'll see you for the next one.
All right, so Shaun, I hear you're going out of town to Dallas for a little Texas-style sim racing event, right?
That's right. The guys at iRaceforLife.org, they're putting on this event, seminar, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's free to anybody who wants to come down, and it's going to be just about sim racing. It's going to be educational. It's going to tell you what you need to know. I mean, whether you're talking about broadcasting a race, setting up your car, painting your car, and they're just going to have a bunch of little seminars going on teaching you.
And free food.
And free food. You gotta like that.
And it's a free event, and there's still space limited. So for those of you that are interested, head on over to iRaceforLife.org.
That's right. It's going on from the 23rd through the 25th, so there's still time. If you're in that area, you definitely got to go there. They're going to have some racing going on. You can bring your own rig, I believe. They're going to have competitions, prizes, all sorts of cool people are going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be giving away stickers. Our good buddy John Hill, who recently did the Sim Car Challenge, he's going to be there with me as well, and I'm looking forward to it. It's just going to be a lot of fun.
All right, well, we hope you do well, and hope you come back with some cowboy boots and a cowboy hat for me.
I haven't had boots since I was a child. I'll go for that.
We'll see what happens when you come back. Good luck out there, and hopefully some of you more you guys will join. There are spaces limited, and there are some additional spaces left, so you can head on over to iRacerLife.org. That's about the midway point of the show. When we return, we have more news on some event that you guys are doing this weekend, the 2.4 Hours of Daytona. We have news on our March on Michigan event coming up, Sim Rig of the Week, and a news section we're adding to the show.
Take your hobby to the next level with a quality racing rig that works great with a PS3, Xbox 360, and a PC. GT Omega Racing Simulator is compatible with a wide range of steering wheels, including Logitech, Fanatec, Thrustmaster, and more. The GT Omega is available now worldwide by going to www.gtomegaracing.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. It's time to talk about an event that's taking place this weekend, and actually by the time all of you watch it, it'll already have taken place.
I'm trying to get out of here so I can keep practicing, actually.
It's a 2.4 Hours of Daytona that both Shaun and Darin are running in, and they're going to put a race recap together, and it should be ready by this time, so here it is.
For those of you that aren't familiar with this race, iRacing has had this 2.4 Hours of Daytona going for like the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And both Shaun and I have run now 2 of them. We ran the first one in 2010, the inaugural. And that was just the Riley at Daytona they ended up doing 90 laps, which equated to about 2 hours. Now, this is, before we get into too far, 2.4 hours is 2 hours and 20 something minutes.
24, I believe. 0.4.
2.4 hours. Because 2.5 would equal a half an hour.
Right, 30 minutes.
2.6 or 7 would probably equal 2 hours and 40 minutes. But yeah, so anyway, they went 2 hours and 40 minutes for this race. So I'm not sure how they equated to 2.4. But the second year, so back to the first year, I ended up finishing 6th in my race.
Not bad.
Limped a car home, got a little bit of damage early on in the bus stop. And you didn't fare so well.
Can we just end the conversation there, perhaps? I don't know. The first year was miserable for me. I wasn't comfortable in the car. Snap oversteer coming out of the bus stop. And that was the end of my race. That's enough said. So then in 2011, they added the Mustangs. You had dual class racing for the first time in this event. And unfortunately, we didn't get to take part in that.
Yeah, we were both busy that day.
Yeah, I think you had volleyball, I was editing, who knows. Then this year, they actually had the rescan version of Daytona. You had night racing, and that was just going to change everything for this event.
Yep, still had the Mustangs.
Still had the Mustangs, dual class. And then it was going to be so much fun. We had Terry come over. He was going to run from here. And then our good buddy John Hill was going to run with us as well from his location. So the 3 of us here, John there, all sort of as one team.
Yeah, and all 4 of us ended up in different splits. So that means none of us ran in the same race. And if you're not familiar with how that works, basically 1,100 drivers right around there ended up joining the race it was 9 o'clock our time in the morning. And what ends up happening is, well, we all qualified prior to that too. Mm-hmm. Well, at least, let's see, there was 753 people that qualified the Riley and 172 people qualified the Mustang.
Okay.
So I ended up qualifying 130th. Shaun was not too far behind me, about 3/10 back, but that put him in the split right behind me. I was in the 4th split, Shaun in the 5th. John ended up in the 10th split, and Terry ended up in the 14th split.
Okay.
So basically there was 42 cars in each split. My particular split had 31 Rileys and 11 Mustangs.
Right. Mine had the same, and then you had 26 total splits.
Yep. Some splits had no Mustangs.
Right.
Which is kind of a bummer. I think the mixed class would have been kind of cool.
Yeah. You know, I have to tell you, this event is a really big deal to us. I mean, we had put in a couple weeks of preparation.
Yep.
You had the Roar before the 24, so you were running
2.4.
2.4 before the Roar before the 2.4 race with the Jettas, the Mazdas, and the Solstices, which we ran in. And I honestly didn't even take any time to prepare for that one. I just went in it and ran in the Jetta, but it ended up being kind of a good icebreaker for the main event.
Yeah, it was. It was a good way to get prepared for that 2.4 hours, 2 hours and 40 minutes. But it was an hour race, so we hadn't been running much long distance stuff. So
No.
that was a good icebreaker, like you said, just to get our feet wet. Before we get too into detail here, I'd like to comment just on the event itself, how it went down, and a little bit of critique. And one thing I want to mention is 1,100 guys joining to run a race. In the past, in these World Tour events that iRacing has, they've had some problems with all these guys joining at the same time, getting everything sunk in together. We've had delays and stuff in the past. This went off without a hitch.
Yeah, all 3 of our timers were a little different, but we all got in. I didn't hear of a single person having a room entering problem like they did maybe in the past.
Yep, I agree. Now to the critique. One of the things that I don't like that they did is when we used to run our events, one of the things that we always stuck by was don't change the rules, don't change things, within a few days. The original page or flyer said that qualifying was going to be a half an hour before the race, one session. And in the past, they've had a couple days worth of qualifying and then, best times,
Sure.
So on and so forth, the qualifying. Well, they opened up qualifying like 2 or 3 days before the race, and we didn't know. They had like a forum post buried in the forums. They could have used their front news page. They could have emailed people. They need to make a bigger deal out of this event because everybody that I heard from and talked to had a blast.
Absolutely. And knowing the rules and being able to know when your qualifying run. I mean, like you said, we were all thinking 8:30 in the morning before the race, we'd be making our qualifying. We could have knocked that out days in advance. Well, we did because we were lucky enough to see the room.
No, the day before.
But
we qualified the day before.
Right, yeah.
And we knew 2 nights before, or a night and a half, I should say, but it was already too late. It was 11 o'clock at night here. I was too tired. I wasn't about to run a qualifying run. So shame on you guys for iRacing for doing that. My next gripe is the Mustangs. Although every Mustang driver in my race was clean and respectful, and I hope I respected their lines for the most part. Man, that car is off the pace running against the Riley.
I love dual class racing. There's nothing
Mixed class, by the way.
Mixed class racing. Nothing like the closing distances between different classes. But when you have this big a difference, it almost gets dangerous.
And back to my other critique about them making a big deal about it. A certificate, some kind of prize, $10 of iRacing credits, just to make a bigger deal about it. Because 2.4 hours of racing, 26 different splits, so there's 26 races that went off, 42 drivers per split. Man, that's an accomplishment. I mean, I am proud to say that I finished that and the one before.
Yeah, and you think of the amount of legwork that people put into this event. So a lot of time going into it. You deserve a little something in return.
Yeah, I agree. Besides just the pat on the back for doing it.
The only thing I'd add to that really is I just can't wait till they get driver swaps. I am so looking forward to the days of real endurance racing. I mean, this was endurance racing for one driver, but I was waiting for my next driving stint. So that's what I'm looking forward for my racing in the future.
I agree.
So, like you mentioned, though, everything went off without any kind of hitch. It was a great event, and that really takes me to my race.
Let's hear it.
I was in the 5th split, as you had mentioned. I started 18th, which I got to tell you, I was nervous. That is in the middle of the pack. You've got guys who are going to be very aggressive, and I'm a little frightened starting in 18th. So I'm starting in a very protective mode just to let the race settle in. I spent the first 45 minutes of the race being very patient and just letting the race come to me. I started the race in a group of cars that seemed to be pretty evenly matched, and I just waited for my time to pass. I would get up to about 7th place and then fall back again to 11th, with a mistake going into turn 1. I worked with Mike Kelly, who started in 16th place for many laps, letting him tow me around the track. 25 lap mark, I started to notice that my car was running very strong and others were starting to fall off the pace. A little bit later, I would hear my spotter tell me that the leader was in the pits. I was now virtually in the lead of the race. Then, after my pit stop, I rotated back to 2nd place, running about 5 seconds back of Noya Nagai, who was able to hold me off for the first 15 to 20 laps of the second run. But then he started to fall off the pace, and I was able to get by.
Yeah! Oh! Oh!
From that point on, I focused on hitting my marks and being safe. Heading into the pits for my second fill-up, I had a strong lead and knew that on fresh tires, the other cars would be just as strong as I was. I maintained that lead until once again the others started to fall off, and it became the game of finishing the last 30 minutes without a major mistake. Dealing with the Mustangs at the wrong places while in the lead is very frustrating and nerve-wracking. It wasn't until leaving the bus stop on the final lap that I finally accepted the fact that I was going to win this race. It had been a long time since I won a race that meant that much to me, and it was one of the best times of my sim racing life. So that's my story. How'd things turn out for you?
Pretty impressive, dude. Congratulations there.
Yeah, I'm very happy.
So I started a little bit closer to the front of the pack, or the leader. I started in 14th in my split. I started in the 4th split, like we had mentioned before, right ahead of Shaun there. And looking at the qualifying times, I didn't plan on moving up too quickly since everybody was so closely matched. I knew I had a good setup, and I'd like to thank James Wyckoff for sharing his setup in a practice session we were in earlier in the week. By the way, that's a setup we all ran.
Yeah.
So thanks. You can thank him for your win, by the way.
Thank you. That was a golden setup.
It sure was. First few laps of the race was really clean from my point of view. Everyone settled in nicely. Then one by one, they started making little mistakes, and within a few laps, I found myself in 6th. A few laps after that, I found myself battling for 3rd place, and it was the first time I thought that I might have a shot at the win. Then not too long after that, I was chasing them down. They caught the Mustangs for the first time, and I was able to catch them. A few laps later, I made my move and was sitting in front, but for only a few laps. Due to the pressure I was getting from Ronnie Ekison, entering turn 1, I tried to brake a little bit later and made the biggest mistake of the race for me. I ended up doing like this little half spin, and I thought I was going to back it into the tire barrier, but ended up just keeping it off the barrier. Snuck right back into turn 1 right in front of Brendan Kazimic. Remember Brendan?
Very much so.
Old school days of sim racing. Hey, Brendan.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, but it was great racing against him, by the way. But yeah, snuck right back in front of him and then set my sights back on the leaders. Which, by the way, were Ronnie, who I had mentioned, and Mick Claridge. with Brendan right on my tail, we were able to run Ronnie and Mick down pretty quickly. Again, with a few laps of catching those guys, I made my move, got back in the lead, and pretty much didn't look back from there. From there on, it was just trying to maintain consistency, hitting my marks in the bus stop, and battling those Mustangs in the bus stop. Man, I swear to God, every time I came up on the bus stop, it seemed like mid-pack or mid-race, there was a Mustang right in the middle of the bus stop, and you had to downshift into second to get through it.
Murphy's Law of Mustangs.
Yeah, you know what? As frustrating as it was, it did help my race, the
Yeah.
Mustangs, a little bit, because I was able to get through the traffic, I think, a little bit better than the other guys. Overall, down to the wire, Ronnie Ekison, again, ended up shaving my lead down to 10 seconds. I was kind of taking it easy the last 10, 15 laps, but ended up bringing it home in victory lane. I couldn't believe it. I knew I had a good car, thanks again to James, but first couple laps too, man, those guys were kind of inching away from me. I'm like, man, this set may not be as good as I thought it was. And then I looked down, I'm in 6th.
Yeah.
So anyway, great event. iRacing put on just an awesome time.
Absolutely.
And had a blast.
And it seems like both of us were at a slight advantage in the fact that it was mixed class racing. And I was not the fastest car on the track this day, but I think I did better with traffic than most of the other guys.
Yeah, in my case, it was just getting through those first few laps. I don't know, there were some fast guys, I started 14th, and there were some fast guys ahead of me, and I don't know what happened to all those guys, but I just must have been the best of the rest. And, once I got the lead, I really didn't feel like I had any, anytime that guy Ronnie got a little close, I'd just pick it up, and I was able to run 138s, 130, low 139s. But, man, what a lot of fun. And Terry and John, speaking of which, Terry ran here.
Yeah.
Hasn't done any long races. I mean, he did some endurance races a long time with us, but hasn't done any serious sim racing in a long time. Ended up bringing it home.
Yeah.
11th place.
11th place, had a good run himself. Actually, he was up to like 5th or 6th place.
Yep.
Ran out of gas.
Ran out of gas. He was waiting for a spotter. He must have had Terry, that's actually Terry's race right there we're looking at. I think he was running with a spotter on medium, so the spotter didn't announce that he was low on fuel, and he was expecting it, ran out right past the entrance to pit lane.
Yeah.
So that cost him a lap or two.
Absolutely.
But great finish for him. John Hill, same, 11th. He ended up
11th.
blowing his motor,
limping
it back, got the meatball, I think, limped it back, and pit for repairs, reset, I think, and finished in 11th as well.
Very nice. So if you look at our little 4-man team, first, 11th, that gives us an average finish position of 5.5. Not a bad day for us.
Bunch of ones.
Yeah.
And I'd like to give a shout out to Andres Corrali. Remember Andres?
Oh, Mr. Dangerous, I believe.
Mr. Excitement. From back in, he's been around for a long time. We used to commentate some races that him and Gregor Hutu were in. But anyway, he won the top split. Man, those guys were running 137s. The average lap time of the race was 139.117.
I think that was my best lap.
That was close to mine. I think my best in the whole race was a 138.7. So I'm really glad I didn't make that split. I might have finished in the top 10 if I was lucky.
Some very fast guys, but a lot of guys put a lot of prep into this event. And that's, again, what makes these events so special. I mean, you got a lot of nightly and weekly racing going on, but these events that you might put in 2, 3, 4 weeks of prep time just for one race, and I did, and I got everything in back from it.
I did too. Again, congrats to all the winners in all 26 races in both classes, all 26 Riley winners and however many Mustang winners there were. And thanks again to all the guys that ran clean in my event. That was a great race and I had a blast.
Yeah, I had a blast too. And I got to tell you, I'm going to start working on my setup already because I want to be in the top split for next year.
Yeah, no kidding.
So that's going to do it for our coverage of the 2.4 Hours of Daytona. Congratulations, Darin. Little high five.
Yeah, you too, man.
Inside Sim Racing had a big day.
It's now time for Sim Rig of the Week, coming to us from Henning of Germany. Now, this rig looks like it's a lot of money was put into it.
This is not your everyday in your home rig. This looks almost commercial. It's so nice.
Well, let's tell everybody what he has in this rig. It's a rig that's been built by Henning himself, and it took him about 60 hours over a 2-year time period. He used a Sim Experience starter kit, and the rig comes equipped with 3 32-inch LG monitors using an ATI 6970 Infinity card. And this rig also has a highly modified G25 wheel.
In addition to that, he has an ECCI Trackmaster pedals with hydraulic brake add-on, and the shifter is a sequential BMW DIY shifter.
Henning started off sim racing in 2009 with Forza 3, but quit console racing when he decided that he wanted to build his own rig. Now he mostly enjoys iRacing and plans to check out rFactor 2 now that it's out. Very nice rig, Henning. Thank you for sharing that with us, and we'll get you your bumper sticker as soon as we can. All right, so an upcoming event that we have here at Inside Sim Racing, we've been talking about it a lot on the show, and it's a March on Michigan, and we got some sponsors.
Everything about this event keeps growing, and that includes the prize list. We've got RC, GT Omega. I've heard Thrustmaster is going to get involved on this. I've heard NVIDIA is going to get involved on this. So again, the prize list keeps getting bigger and bigger, and we've got that special promotion, so PR-ISR trucks. That's going to get you all the content I mentioned earlier.
That you'll need for the race, right?
And the practice event. So starting next Saturday at our race time, you're going to be able to practice with us. We're going to open up a server, and hopefully if you're new to iRacing, come on out. We're going to help you get up to speed and make it more enjoyable event.
It's going to be lots of fun.
Absolutely. So head over to sscarace.com and you can sign up now for the event.
Keep in mind there's a 430 person max, and there's still lots of space available, but get out there and sign up.
Get involved.
Get involved. All right, we're going to talk about some things we have coming up on the show in the future, and one of them is a new thing that I mentioned before we went to break. I don't know if you guys remember, but I mentioned that we're going to have a new special series, and this is going to be a do-it-yourself rig. A lot of people out there ask Darin and Shaun to build a rig on the show, so they're going to be doing just that.
Well, before we started reviewing all these rigs, we had our own do-it-yourself rig. So we're very experienced in this, and the important thing is showing you how easy it is. We're going to take a pile of junk, scrap, lumber that was actually getting rained on in the back here, and we're going to turn it into a sim rig. We're going to spend no more than $100, and we're going to have something that is completely raceable, and it's going to be easy to do, and you can follow along and probably do something very similar yourself.
And this is great for the people that are just starting out in sim racing or don't have a lot of money to buy some of the rigs that we feature on the show. So it's going to be a great new segment added to Inside Sim Racing, and we're definitely looking forward to showing you guys out there on how to build your own rig.
And this is really only our first build. There are so many great designs. This one's wood, but if you go to our forum, there's a thread there by Simulator, and he has plans for a PVC rig. And I've never worked with PVC, but it's going to be easy as well. We're going to get the PVC, we're going to follow his plans. That'll be the next one, and we're just going to keep them coming. Different DIY rigs keep coming.
We're sure that it's a segment that all of you out there will definitely enjoy. And speaking of things that we have coming up on the near future in the show, we have this display here. Dun, 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 dun. Very nice display, carbon fiber. And this display is by Russell Hodgson, and he originally would make modifications that he would sell for the G27. Now he makes this display, which is mainly for iRacing and rFactor 2. We're really looking forward to it. It's called the Z-Sim.
Yeah, completely standalone, and like you mentioned, it's got different readouts depending on the sim you're in. So it actually changes and can be configured a little bit, I believe. So we're going to be covering that. In addition, I've got a bunch of different Triton headphones. We've got the detonators. You can see I've already been playing with these.
Yeah.
We've got their new wireless headphones as well, and the AX Pros, which we reviewed long time ago. And I'm not sure if they've made a lot of changes, but it'll be a new review nonetheless. In addition to that,
we got a lot of stuff coming up on the show.
Yeah, those look good on you, actually. In addition to that, we've got the CarriageWorks VRC 1000 rig, which is quite a rig. We're going to be reviewing that as well. So as you can see, we are getting backed up on things, and a lot more coming in very soon.
All right, so everyone out there, make sure you stay tuned to InsideSimRacing.tv for all of your latest news in sim racing. That's going to pretty much take us out for this week in sim racing, February 20th edition. I feel a little muffled here. I can't really hear myself. All right, make sure you comment on our YouTube page if you watching the show on YouTube. And I guess that's going to about wrap it up, right?
Yeah, good show.
All right, Checker Flag is out, and so are we.